This is the Gospel Unlimited with Pastor Steve Bundy. Are you at a place where you feel excluded, ashamed, disgraced, like you're living under a curse? Nothing seems to work? Tune in, because today I'm going to tell you a story about Canaan, the land of the curse, which later on became synonymous with heaven, the land of promise. This is the story of how God can turn your worst nightmare into your greatest promise. It is the story of how He can turn a name that's synonymous with disgrace into one that's synonymous with greatness. When the biblical patriarch Abraham accepted the call to be the spiritual father of many people, God changed his name from Abram to Abraham and promised to make that name great. Now it's interesting that in the Hebrew, father is Av and multitude of people is Ham. In those days there was a nation called Canaan. It was a nation that Noah had cursed. Their father was Ham, and his name was a disgrace because of what he had done to Noah. Noah had 3 sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. He blessed Shem and Japheth at his deathbed, but excluded Ham and his family from this blessing. In those days, the deathbed blessing or curse of a father impacted nations. Ham had 4 sons, that is, Egypt, Cush, and Put, who were excluded from the blessing, and Canaan, whom Noah had specifically cursed. It appears the conception and birth of Canaan was considered a curse because it was the outcome of Ham's disgraceful act. The nation of Canaan therefore developed while bearing this burden of shame. The other nations that came out of Ham, like Babel and Egypt, tried to make a great name for themselves by building massive structures. It seems they were trying to distance themselves from their father's disgraceful act. When God called Abram to be the Av, that is, spiritual father of Ham, that is, of many people, He was calling these nations that were excluded from Noah's blessing to believe that they still had a place at God's table. When God changed Abram's name and promised to make it great, He was promising to redeem the name of their father Ham and remove the disgrace associated with it. He was calling these nations to believe that they can now be children of the Father of grace and not children of their disgraced father. They didn't have to allow their feelings of inadequacy and subsequent quest for greatness to lead them to disobey God and rebel against Him. Now God's intervention over this matter has unfolded over time, and today the name Canaan is synonymous with the promised land or even heaven itself. Virtually no one remembers Canaan as the land of the curse. Again, virtually no one remembers Ham's act of disgrace and the exclusion of his family from blessings. All we remember is God's gracious promise to bless all the families of the earth through Abraham. This story shows us there is hope for present-day nations which were conceived and birthed in acts of shame and disgrace. If God had a plan for Egypt, for instance, He has a plan for present-day nations that share a similar history with Egypt. There is also hope for nations that feel like they're living under a curse today. If God had a plan for Canaan, which was subject to a curse, He must have a plan for present-day nations which feel like they're living under a curse. So, do you feel excluded, ashamed, disgraced, like you're living under a curse, like nothing seems to be working? Take comfort in knowing that God has a plan for you. Hold on, be hopeful, give it time, and it will come to pass.